What is going on, internet? It has been a minute. Back to essentially talk about some changes I'm making and pretty much my exit from the Google ecosystem as much as possible. Now, in the recent events of a lot of services changing their policy, getting bought out, companies going out of business, Google relatively being a monopoly, I think that it's time to start to reconsider on self-hosting and exiting the Google platform as much as possible. Obviously, much more realistic. Like, I'm going to continue to run Graphene OS. I think it's the most reasonably secure operating system. I still will have my Gmail account, unfortunately, due to the fact that I still run my YouTube channel and they don't allow me to use my a different alternative email, which is a little silly, but whatever. And then talk about self-hosting. I think self-hosting is a very important topic to bring up, and trying to find Google service, like Google-less kind of services as much as humanly possible, with obviously with some caveats. There are some apps, I believe, from what I understand, that build it with like certain Google stuff in the background to prevent it from being censored, because Google is so huge and countries will not block Google. They can't block Google because they rely on it. Maybe in a more decentralized future, we'll be able to solve that in perspective. I think some good decentralized services do exist. You should probably check them out. I think that there's a website called Awesome Decentralization that I have used before. Now, before I get to what I'm moving from, I'm going to go to why I'm moving from. Why, like the why. I think the why is important. If it doesn't matter, then skip this section until I start talking about something else. I wonder if there was a way I could do show note, like sections, but whatever. The thing is, like, when you go to a company and you sign up for the service and you put your data there, you technically don't own it to like a certain degree. Like, that company owns it. It's on their servers, it's in their data center, doing whatever they want. And that's your choice, but I think when people think they own it, I think it really owns them. It's just like Facebook, just like YouTube, just like all these platforms. They essentially own you. They make you are the product. You don't have, you can't. No one can be forced to have you as a user on their platform, which I somewhat agree with. Like, you shouldn't force a business to anyone really to entail anybody on your like, if you own it. I think that's where ownership comes from. Now, this is where protocols trump policy, like platforms on everything. And I think that that's something that people need to wake up to. Email, as terrible it is for privacy, it's a protocol. It's great. It's really hard to block. And I think that those are very important things to take in consideration when you pick software. How much control over my data do I have it? If it's not on my machine, how much control do I have over the service, the data, etc.? Could they go out of business? Could they change policy? Could they make it very hard to exit? That is something that you have to all take into consideration. When you're on your journey, your self-hosting journey, your de-Googled, quote-unquote, journey, with a grain of salt, you need to do somewhat of a sanity check, is what I do. Is how realistic is it? What services can I leave behind and or do not need? And what can I do to make sure that I'm not sacrificing a massive amount of convenience for maybe little to no privacy or better privacy, but it's unenjoyable. That's where my reasoning why comes from, is why am I doing this? I'm doing this because there are companies that I have invested and put my money and time into that have changed, not for the better, but for me at this current time, the worst. I think that we're worse off in terms of where I stand with the companies that I put either my money or my time into, or I just use, free. Like at one point I was like, yay, Google everything. And then I was like, it's probably a bad idea. Forward thinking. Now, when the second, I guess like the second point that I make that's really drove it home for me is even some free and open source software that I like has changed to a point where I am no longer a fan or a user. Just because you're free and open source doesn't mean that I can't be critical, and it doesn't mean that you can't be bad. I think this is something that needs to be talked about, because in the Linux space, it's like, only Microsoft proprietary software, only this is proprietary, only this. And you're just like, okay, but what about like the shady practices of like this company, et cetera, et cetera. So what I did is I went through a list of apps, and I was like, what don't I like about this app or this service that I'm paying for? What can I do to move on from it? How do I transform it? And I'm going to now get into the list of applications that I've found pros and cons, and stuff that I like and stuff that I don't like, and the reason I'm moving. My commitment for the year is to essentially remove as much cloud infrastructure need as possible and strip out as much proprietary software / Google software as much as possible. My first app that I left, like my first ecosystem that I left and went to a quote-unquote more self-hostable option, is KeyPass. I migrated from Bitwarden, and I went over to KeyPass XC and KeyPass XD. This is not shade at Bitwarden. I do not have a problem with Bitwarden. I just don't like the idea that eventually somebody could, if not maybe a terrible company, buy out Bitwarden. Maybe they change their policy. Maybe they close source everything. Maybe they do X, Y, and Z. Like, just stuff that I just don't agree with. I'm giving them a lot of power by hosting. I know they don't actually host my password. They just use their service for syncing, and you can self-host it. But if Bitwarden's entire core function relies on that code, and they close source it, and they move, and they make it harder and harder and harder to self-host or maintain the self-hosted version Vaultwarden, then it's really within their rights. They own the code, or whatever, however you want to look at it. It's got their name on it. They can change their policies whenever, and I don't like that. KeyPass XD, even if they go out of business, they're just really a database file with a graphical user interface. I mean, it's been around for a very, very, very long time. It's all local. I could just go to fucking Notepad, encrypted Notepad, locally, if I need to. So this is why I keep a backup. KeyPass XC has a really cool built-in feature where you can back it up in HTML format for long-term storage, just in case. And then I have another option for the long-term storage. There's a flash drive that I'm looking at that is supposed to be good for like 90 to like 100 years. And it's somewhat expensive. It's expensive. But I would like to put like maybe my most sacred passwords into that just for in case KeyPass XD or XC just fucking decides to take a shit. There's a whole website called, Google Kills, where they had a service and they killed it and they moved on. Or these companies shut down, even though that they're really good products. They just don't have the funding. I mean, there's a list of them that get defunct, or developers just get bored, or they just don't want to do anymore. They're not obligated. to do that. Someone can just, if it's free and open source, that's the benefit. You can go over and like maintain it and take it over yourself. Like that's the positive open source. But someone could change it and just defunct it. There was a project I was using that got like abandoned, and the guy came back. He's like, "Nah, just kidding. I was being a bitch," kind of thing. It was like he's like, "I was being kind of a bitch about it." So that was my first migration from Bitwarden to KeePassXD and XC. Very easy if you read. I didn't, and I was being a fucking goober about it. Because I was being a goober about it, I was like, "This sucks. I hate it." And I was like, "Oh, it's a me thing because I can't read." I reread I RTF'd them the manual. Excellent, super simple. I highly recommend people that like do not want to be involved with like a cloud provider or have their email attached to anything or have like just anything involved with password managers outside of like your phone. KeePassXD and XC is great. Sync thing. It just syncs. It's instant, dude. Like, it's so super cool how instant it is. The syncing is immediate, and I just do everything locally. I'm combing through my passwords and realizing what I can delete and what I cannot delete. Now that the password manager and it has some good security features. I think you can do key file and then web authentication, I believe, and FIDO2 passkeys. I think it's got support for that now, which is very based. I ended up migrating from Proton as a long-term user, subscriber, payer, and enjoyer. I have decided this is like the most difficult thing for me to move from was definitely Proton. Proton Mail has been somewhat of a good experience up until the last like maybe year or two, where I realized that they care about quantity more than quality. That's just my personal take. Again, no hate. But I think that Proton is making a mistake of trying. I want them to be able to be an alternative to Google and a Google Suite. I think that's awesome. I really, truly do. I want to make that as a precursor and a side note. I think that it's good that Google themselves exist, but I don't like that they exist as a monopoly. I don't like the idea of all these tech giants just sucking up companies and just making it difficult to have any competition. Now, Proton is buying a few company, like they bought up Simple Login. I wasn't really a fan of that. And then they also just did, I think, Proton Zoom integrations. And people were kind of pissed. Yeah, like, I think people were like kind of mad. And they were like very critical of like Zoom for a very long time. And then they decided to add easier integration, and not a real big fan. A lot of people weren't a big fan of that. And I get why, like, I kind of like understand it. I kind of agree with them. Like, you could have done Jitsi at any point in time, and I just don't like that. They also they took some stances with how they do their business, and they just don't care. Like, they're like super. Like Bitcoin address, I agree that they made a good decision there because like it's decentralized funding, and you can't block Bitcoin. I mean that's in its nature to be as liberated as possible. But I do not care for I don't care about them trying to be an all-in-one solution when they have projects that they could fucking work on. Like stuff that they already have that could be better and good and as a replacement. I just don't like that. And I'm not an all-in eggs in one basket kind of guy. I like some diversity just in case. Like, I don't put my 2FA codes in my password manager. I think that's retarded. Like, if a leak ever happens or Bitwarden ever fucks up somewhere, like, you'd be very pissed if someone could get access to that stuff. Um, so I moved to Tutanota, and I love it. I like the user interface. I like it. It's great. It's simple. The 48-hour waiting period was kind of annoying, but whatever. And they accept Monero. They don't use any Google Analytics. They don't use any push notifications for Google. They don't use even their own. They made their own CAPTCHA. They use their own CAPTCHA, which is kind of cool. Now, price-wise, I think it was a better, I guess, like financially, it's a better decision. $36 a year for their 20 gig email, calendar, contact. That's good. The price is like doesn't bother me, but to someone's like Proton's like $100 for like what I was getting. I don't really use the VPN. 500 gigs of storage is nice. 120 or something like that was nice and generous of them. I truly like that they gave me extra storage every year. I was like a paying customer. I'm just like, they need to fix some shit. Tutanota needs to fix shit. It's not perfect over there, but they're an email provider. I just want them to be simple email provider. So I care, and that's all they're working on. Their email. They're not adding a million features, not adding a million things, and to me, that's what I like. They're just like, hey, we're working on it, and there's some stuff they haven't fixed or done or brought over. They have stuff that they have a roadmap that's very small and usable. I switched over to non-addy for my. I was about to just say fuck it and continue simple login, but I'm like, no, let me do the right thing and move away. And a non-addy allows you to self-host. I will not be doing that, but they allow you to self-host, which I like. They're committed to free and open source software. So it's separate. It's new. $12 a year for what I'm getting. It's like 100 megabytes worth of bandwidth. I think that I will never eat that each month. They pretty much like did the math. They're like, this is how much you'll accurate. Like this is how much you'll go over each. This is how much you would have to have for each month in order to go over that bandwidth. And I was like, oh, I'm never gonna go near it. Nowhere near that. Maybe down the line if I get like spam or whatever, I'll consider it. But like going up to the next plan. But like $12 plus 30, I can get a VPN for $5 a month. And I did the math. And I was like. Mulvad plus what a non-addy is $1 and then $3.60. It's like if I did Mulvad every single month, it'd be $5 cheaper than Proton. $5 cheaper. So something to consider. I could without and that's like I don't use VPNs too often, so it's like $36 plus 12. I'm at like 48, and then plus 50 VPN 50, but VPN like very sparingly $48. I'm saving like $70. So if you're like a money conscious person, these are really good alternatives to have and like options, and you should embrace it. They don't use PGP encryption. That is a negative in some people's view because they think that they should encrypt their own messages and et cetera, and I somewhat agree. They have a password protected option where you can just put a password. You and a person can exchange a password and then send email. But at that point, just use Signal. I think Signal is the default standard. I feel like maybe somewhere in the future that encrypted email, like this very specific niche email, might not even be around or relevant. I could be wrong. And for like mainly corporates, like no, probably not. But like just in general normies, I just like when I sign up for something, they send me an email. I use an email aliasing, and I dump it if I don't need it anymore, or I keep it. Probably not. Email's probably not going anywhere. What am I saying? I'm retarded. Just like, but people to people, like. You don't exchange emails with your friends. You don't like see a gothic baddie in the corner and you're like, hey, you want to exchange emails, my lady? You don't. It'd be insane. So that was kind of like that's kind of a headache. There's no import feature. So I have to go through every single fucking simple login address that I consistently use, make a new one, go into the service, change it over, and then move on. I have a probably I don't actually like. It's kind of nice because I'm like realizing less and less. I'm like, oh, I don't use this. Oh, I don't use this. Has helped me with my digital cleanup on like the most massive gut glazing level on the planet. Like, I love it. I love that I do less, and I have I need like less services means I'll get less emails, I'll have less problems. My Gmail is completely fucked. I'll just let that ride out until, I mean, I have to log in and do something, show activity, otherwise Google will fucking yeet it. And the last thing you want is your YouTube channel to get fucking nailed into the ground because of some shit like that. But it's whatever. It's not migrating that stuff. I think owning my own domain would have solved this, if I'm not mistaken. I think that would have been smart, but I just don't want to do that. I just don't care that much. It's whatever. It's just email is very relevant to me in that context. Like, whatever. There's nothing important that gets sent to like my very, very, very private email. I just keep that to myself. And if it's like a couple of like cache emails, whatever, I just move on. And this is like, now you're gonna be like asking like, yo dude, what about your receipts and your warranties? I got a solution. I figured it out. Paperless NG. I can set up all my documents, all my documents, all my receipts for warranty purposes, etc. Digitize it, and then it's there, and then put it into a file cabinet and move on. That's the next thing. That's one of the first things I'm hosting. I have a bookmark manager I'm hosting called LinkedIn. I love it. LinkedIn, I think is how you pronounce it. I could be wrong. Amazing. I've been using it for a very long time now. Well, about over a year, way over a year, almost 2. I like it. I've never had to worry about putting bookmarks in my browser and worrying about syncing and anything. I can reinstall my OS a million times and I still have all my bookmarks. I love it. Super simple to set up. Docker container. Very based. Very, very light resources too. Clean, nice, dark mode by default, I think. Which everything should be default dark mode. My notes, that's going to be the hardest one right now, is Obsidian. Logsec, not so good. I tried it. I like it, just don't like it enough to leave yet, but I will be working on a migration. Once I could figure out how to really be proficient in Logsec, I might push over, but nothing. I think there's like maybe 1 or 2 like apps I'll hold on to for quite a good amount of time. But beyond that, it's not like something that I don't like that it's proprietary, but whatever. Logsec is probably second close. Maybe I'll run it in a couple months like as a side app and see if I can figure it out. I mean, this is going to be a completely year process. I think that there's a lot I'm going to be shifting through. There's a lot of stuff that I'm going to figure out. And again, I like that Logsec is local first, no syncing. I can get it from Obtainium, straight from GitHub. I don't have to have a Google Play account. It does not need Google services to run. I like that. I think that is something that people are forgetting. If you can get it to work without the Google Play services or the integrity service or the APIs or any of that to work, amazing. Then you are pushing yourself further away from the techno monopoly. The Monopoly Man, but with really cool binoculars instead of a monocle. PC-wise, I'm still sticking with Cubes OS. I'm running an Arch-based Linux now. I tried Fedora. Fuck Fedora. I use Arch, by the way. It's been, I migrated back to Arch, clean, like it. Cubes OS, never leaving it. Probably going to run that on my laptop and for the rest of my life. I really like Cubes. It's organized my life, my data, and I think it's the most reasonably secure Linux operating system currently in 2025. I think another thing that like people don't realize is like stuff that they don't use. Not only they don't use, it's like stuff like you're like, oh man, not only I don't use this, I'm paying for it. So it's like good to like just go clean your digital life out a little bit and be like, can I delete this? Can I do that? This has been like a very big wake up call in like a good way, where I'm like, I don't really use this. I don't like this, etc. I don't have this. I've been switching around like my emails to stuff that like wasn't originally like aliased email. Now it's an aliased email. That's been kind of like a nice thing to like go through, and then just deleting other accounts that like I'm like I don't want to go through the effort of doing this. I don't use it. I'll get rid of it. Now the best thing you can do on your self-hosted journey is what I did personally that got me in self-hosting was bought a Raspberry Pi. So you could get a Raspberry Pi, and then after you get a Raspberry Pi, you can self-host something called Pi-Ho, which is another thing that I'm pushing away from. Like, it's going to be my local DNS server. It's going to be my local DHCP server. I'm going to make sure that it does all the queries for me. It's ad blocking on the local area network, which is amazing and very based. So that's another thing that you can kind of like go through is like, do I need to use like get rid of your fucking router from your ISP and just host it locally? And what I mean by router is that you can get pfSense, OpenSense. You have so many options out there to self-host even just your router, your switch, things that you use on a daily basis to free you from, proprietary software. That is the point of self-hosting, is you have control. Yes, you have to manage, but you have control. And you might need less than you actually have now. I think that's also an important aspect. People tend to collect a lot of apps that they don't use and just don't install them. They tend to sign up for a ton of stuff and tend to forget that they didn't really use it or need it. I'm not really blaming the user as much, but because a lot of these applications make it very difficult to delete your data and unsubscribe from their subscription model. It's like a gym membership now. Everything's like the levels of gym membership. Have you ever signed up for one and then ended up wanting to cancel? And it's a fucking nightmare. It's like they want your blood sample. They're worse than they're like almost like a 3-letter agency level right now. Now, I hope I got like the gears turning in your head and you start making more conscious decisions to erase yourself from the techno dystopian kind of like landscape that we are in now. If you need a few alternatives. Alternative to Twitter, Mastodon, Blue Sky. Alternative to YouTube, PeerTube. There is Rumble, there is BitChute, there is some other platforms. I think PeerTube is the most federated and liberated one of them all because you can self-host it. I think having the ability to self-host truly keeps you independent as possible. Obviously, there's some caveats to it, but self-hosting is the ultimate GigaChad move. Go buy yourself, like I said, a Raspberry Pi, self-host Pi-hole with your DNS server, then get like one of those mini PCs, turn it into a server, and then start hosting stuff locally. Because if you own it and you have it, it is your data. That is the point of it. Other than that, it's been quite a process. This is kind of like going to be like a short episode, and then I'm going to do an update and a follow through maybe like 6 months down the line. What have I gotten rid of, etc., etc. So come back for that, if anything. And I feel like I have ranted long enough, and I hope the audio is okay on this. I'll be uploading it later. I appreciate everyone that does listen and or even just gets a slight different perspective on the process of not only getting back your freedom and your digital sovereignty, but knowing that if you can and you have the willpower, you too can escape the techno monopoly. Thanks. Have a good night.